a look at charts today, pretty common that, especially if you're building like a dashboard in Bubble or some internal tool, that you'd want to have some graphical representation of data so that your users can see that. So I see a lot of people wanting to build this type of functionality, and they're not really sure how to get started on populating the charts, right? So the thing is, especially in Bubble, the thing is that the data that you have in your database in the way that you would normally store it may not be formatted to feed into a chart for like the graph to populate correctly. So you kind of have to massage that data, and sometimes in certain cases build a data type specifically just to populate a chart. And I think that's where we're going to kind of take a look at today. An example might be like a loan calculator, right? If you want to show how long it's going to take you to pay, or take the user to pay off a loan over time, that's one example. If you wanted to show how much a portfolio asset could grow, that's another example, right? So if you're like, you want to see how your money, like you have money in your 401k and you want to see how that grows over time with a specific percentage increase, something like that. But these are just the ones that I'm giving, and the focus that I'm putting on today are very like narrow examples. There's so many applications to when you would use what we're going to do today, which is a loop, a backend recursive workflow. There's so many other examples of when you can do that, when this applies to your app situation. Anytime basically you want to create a list of information or multiple rows of data with a single user action, you're going to need to use a backend workflow, probably a loop. So I've been I feel like I've shown people this quite a bit, and the use case slightly varies just a little bit, but the underlying concept is consistent throughout all of the different use cases. So I figure it's just to do a live stream on this and just kind of show people how I think about this, and hopefully it's helpful. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. We've got mortgage calculator here. Share screen. All right, so you can see I've got the Bubble editor all set up here. Let's just take a quick look at what the end goal is, right? So I've got no data in my database right now, nothing. It's completely blank. And I'm going to preview this. All right, so I've got a few inputs. I put in a loan amount. This is 25. We'll say 25,000. No, I'm sorry. We'll call this loan name. We'll call it a car loan. $25,000 with an interest rate of, say we're going from 8% to 5% or something like that. We're recalculating how long this will take to pay off on a 9-year term. All right, so we calculate that. Now let's just go see let's just check out what happened in the back end here. The first thing it did was create the actual loan. I called it a mortgage here, but just think of it as a loan, right? The interest rate and then the term, all of that information got stored. This is from the inputs, right? And then it created 9 rows of data, because the loan amount, the term on the loan was for 9 years. So now if we go back to our graph, you can see that it populates this by year, right? We've got a row here for each year. All right, 2022, 23, 24. That's the way this particular chart element needs the data to be formatted in order for it to show the year on the x-axis and the amount on the y-axis, which is a fairly common way to represent this kind of thing. All right, so what we'll do is work backwards from this end goal, right? We want to recreate this. How did I create these 9 rows corresponding to a specific loan, right? If I change the search field here, you can see all of those are related to the car loan. So there's a relationship between this chart data and this mortgage or loan. And you can see that the values are they're going down, right? They're descending as the years go on. All right, so we're gonna let's go back. Let's undo all of this, or let's go back to a point where I didn't have any. I'm gonna revert back to my no workflow save point. Confirm. And I'm also going to delete the data that I have in the database that I created. So we want to start with fresh information. Actually, I might not even have to do that because I don't think I had any. Yeah, had any data in there anyway. All right, cool. All right, so let's do this now with a slightly different use case. I'm not going to use the car loan example. I'm going to use something different just to demonstrate that there's so many different ways to think about how to apply this technique that we're going to use today. But try to broaden it for your own use case and think about like how could this apply to the situation in your own app, right? So I've got 4 inputs here. There's not a whole lot to say about these inputs. This is a expecting text. This is expecting an integer. Interest rate here. I think we'll use, so in this example, we're going to use like how your money would grow over time in a bank account with this particular interest rate. And then the term, how long, over what period do you want to see this? And I don't think that should be a decimal. I'm going to change that to an integer. We're not going to put a decimal for that. This is an integer. Okay. And then we've got the calculate button, right? So we've got no other workflows in here, no data, not even a data type yet, just the user, the default. And let's build this thing. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is set up our data. So let's set up 2 data types. Let's set up a bank account. And let's set up we'll just call this chart data or line graph data. Let's call it something different than the last one. Line graph data. Okay. So we need a few fields to describe what's in the bank account data type. We need the name of the bank account, and we'll do that with text. It's easy. We're going to need, what other fields do we have here? We have the amount as of today, as of the time that the would-be user is entering this information. So we'll call this bank amount, and that will be a number. We're going to have the interest rate here. Interest rate. That would also be a number. And finally, the term, how long, over what period do you want to see how long your money is going to grow? That's also going to be a number. So term is going to be a number. All right, cool. I think I'm going to leave this blank for now. And let's just take a look at that. So let's build this and see why we can't populate the chart with just bank account information and why we need this other data type, the line graph data. I want to say data, not date. Data. All right, so we're collecting this information from the front end from the user. Let's just set that part up. All right, let's go to click on this button. I should have these named input loan amount, not loan. Bank account. Let's just copy that down. Bank account loan. amount, input term, input interest rate. Okay, that should be good. So let's start at a workflow. You always want to make sure that your elements are named properly so you know what you're referring to in the workflows. We're going to do data, create a new thing. Type of thing we're going to create is a bank account. And we're going to set the 4 fields that we set up in the database. So we're going to do the name is going to be input bank account names, value, bank amount, input bank accounts amounts, value. The interest rate is going to be input interest rates value, and the term is going to be terms value. All right, very easy. Very straightforward so far. This is let's just test this and see if this works. Let's also add a reset inputs here. And let's just see what that does. Let's see if that populates our bank account row with information as it is coming through from the front end. So this is a mock would-be user. All right, so this will be my TD savings. My TD savings has $25,000 in it. My interest rate is 5%, and I want to see how long it's going to take to what I'm going to have at the end of 20 years with that interest rate. So calculate that. All right, let's check what we have. Cool. It created that amount. Fine. Now, how would I show? There's nothing that I can do that's going to show how this is going to grow over time, right? I would have to set that data up, right? I want to add back this. I actually don't think I have it installed. Well, the chart element, right? So this is just the most basic charting element that you can use in Bubble. I'll show a few others afterwards, but this is the one that we're going to use for now. This is a free plugin built by Bubble. And if we add this line bar chart, let's add this to the bottom here. All right, you can see that the type of data that it's expecting, if I do bank account, my data source could be, do a search for bank accounts. And then the value expression could be like the amount, right? That's the value. This would be the x-axis, and the label. Oh, I'm sorry. This would be the value expression would be the y-axis, and then my label expression, current points, name, right? Because that has to be a text. This has to be a number. Now, if I preview that, you see it doesn't chart anything. Right? It doesn't chart anything because it's only one row for this to refer to. It's doing a search for bank accounts. There's only one bank account that's relevant to this particular row. We need to create the line graph data in order to show a progression over time, up or down. Let's move this to the center. Growth. And let's change the appearance. I'm going to change this to be green. Cool. All right. So let's go in and build the second step of this workflow where we want to we set up what's known as a schedule and API workflow. All right. There's a few different names for this. There is sometimes it's called a backend workflow. Sometimes it's called an API workflow. It's kind of used interchangeably. But the point is, the reason we have to do this is because we're going to send information to the back end for further processing. This is not happening on the user from in the front end. It's a single action that's triggered from the user, and then it's sent to the back end for further processing. And we need to do that in order to be able to calculate the amount that's going to go into those different rows in our bank account or chart data type. All right, so if you click here, you do need to be on a paid plan in order to access the backend workflows. You would do that here. If you enable backend workflows, it'll prompt you to be on a paid plan. And then I'm going to go edit backend workflows, new API workflow, and I'm going to just call this what do I want to call this? Rate calculation. That's a stupid name. Maybe just calculation. Populate chart data. That's really what this is doing. Okay. So I'm going to need a few pieces of information in order to create these records, right? And we do that through parameters. Parameters is just information that's sent from the front end to the back end, right? That's all it is. If you've ever worked with APIs, a parameter, they may specify which parameters are required for you to get certain information. We're going to specify we want to pass back the mortgage. Not mortgage. We're going to specify a bank account. Best to keep these lowercase and treat these like URLs, right? And the workflow name itself and the keys, treat them like URLs because they may be passed through a third party at some point. Always better to have lowercase and no spaces in these. So the bank account is going to be the type bank account. So we're passing bank account information from the back end to the front end. And now watch what happens when we do that. We're going to say, if I go back to my index here, it's created an issue. So you can see that we have the API workflow now available here that we created on the back end. Schedule date. We want this to happen right away. So we're going to say schedule this to happen on the current date and time. And it's opened up this bank account parameter. So Bubble knows that we're going to be sending information to the back end here because of what we did in the backend workflow tab. And we're going to say result of step one's new bank account. So it's referring back to the information that was created in this step. So we now have access to all of this information because of this one thing here. One of the very powerful features in Bubble is the ability to refer to the data that was created in a previous step. So this is going to send this information to the backend here. Okay, so now the other thing that we're going to want is I think we can actually access most of the data to that. Let's see how much we can. So we're going to create a new thing, and we're going to create the line graph data. All right, and we're going to set a few fields here, right? We haven't set this up yet. So let's do create a new field, and we're going to need, first off, the value. So the value of that, of what the change is going to be. I think I called it an amount. What did I call it, actually? Let's be consistent. Bank amount, right? So let's just call this bank amount. All right, we're creating a field in the line graph data, right? We're not working with the bank account data anymore, or data type. The amount, we're going to need the year, right? Because we want to know which year this is going to be available in. That's also going to be, we can use date and time for that, or date. And then this one is going to be the bank account. And we want to set this to the type bank account because we want to tie this record back to the bank account that was created on the front end and passed through on the back end. So now if we look at our bank account data, we have 3 fields here that we created. The bank account is a relationship between this back to the bank account table, right? So that it establishes that relationship. This graph data is related to this row in the bank account. That's the relational part. Bank amount, that's going to change by year, and then the year is going to change, right? So we're setting up different data here. We're setting different values, I should say. All right, so the bank amount, or rather the bank account here, let's just specify this. We already have that information coming through So very easily, we just have to say, okay, this is going to be populated here. The year is going to be the first year. The first iteration of this loop is going to be the current date and time. And then the bank account, or the bank amount rather, is just going to be the bank account's bank amount, right? Because we have that information in there already. We have the bank account coming through and we have the amount. This is going to be the first iteration here, just the loop. All right, so let's see what happens. Should we try this? Let me think. Yeah, let's try this. Let's try this and see what it gives us. I think that's enough. Let's see what our issues are. Let's get rid of this. We don't need that yet. All right, so let's see what that does. Do we have any data in there? We do not. We have a bank account, which we have to delete. All right, so account name is going to be Chase Savings. Today's amount is going to be 25,000. Interest rate is going to be 6%, and the term is going to be 3 years. All right, so it looks like we have one data point in our chart data. Let's see what happened there. All right, we've got it created the bank account, and then it created one row of data in the Chase Savings, which is exactly what we expected because we did not set up any loop yet. Right, we've only set this to schedule one thing to happen. Now, this row came from the backend, this backend workflow that we created. Now, what we're going to do is set up the recursion part of this. We're going to set this up to keep this workflow is going to keep calling itself, keep happening in a loop until some condition stops it. So let's do schedule an API workflow. API workflow is going to be populate chart data. Schedule date is going to be current date and time. Not current user. Current date time. And then the bank account, I think we're going to need to add another parameter here. Yeah, we're going to need another parameter. We're going to need amount, which is going to be a number. And we're going to need, what else do we need? That might be it for now. Oh, we need the year. We need the year, which is going to be a date. All right, so the three fields that we're populating are showing up here. The bank account is never going to change, right? So iteratively through this loop, the bank account is going to remain consistent. The year is going to be different. So it's going to be the original year that was passed through from the front end plus years 1. All right, so it's adding with every loop, it's adding another year and populating that value, passing that through the loop again. And then the bank amount, this is going to be a little bit different. We're going to say bank amount that was passed through multiplied by the bank account's interest rate plus the original bank amount. All right, so you can see Bubble actually has started using these parentheses here, which is handy. I just toggled this on. I didn't know how to do this. But if you go to versions and you toggle this on, expression parentheses, it'll automatically populate those. Did not know that before, I think 2 days ago. Shout out to Anchor for teaching me how to do that. Okay, so this is going to increase with each loop. Now, if I just do this it's never going to stop. So this is a great way to overload your server, right? Let's do it. Let's do one. I have to go back and fill in these parameters here, right? Because I added these two bank amounts in years. So let's just fill those in on the front end, right? Right here, we're back on the index page. The bank amount is going to be result of step one's bank amount, right? Again, referring back to here. And the year is going to be the current date and time. You want to get the current date and time. The time to start with is the time that the person enters this information. All right, so let's see what happens there. Let's delete the data we got in. So before we got only one line graph created, or one row for the line graph created. Now we're going to get too many if this does what I expect it to do. Let's do city savings. Today's amount 60,000, interest rate 5, term 20. Oh, let's do smaller now. Let's do 10. Okay. We've got our bank account created. Good. Let's check the line graph data. Uh-oh. We've got all 6,000 here. Hang on, forgot to do something here. Let me pause this. All right, so there's a couple of things happening here. One is that it's still creating records. We don't want that. Let's stop it. So let's go to the server logs, scheduler, and pause tasks. Let's cancel all. Let's do all workflows. So that'll stop it from happening anymore. We don't want it to keep populating because we see that the data is wrong here, right? It's still 6,000. It is creating multiple rows, which we didn't have before. And we are getting the correct, it's associating with the correct bank account. Bank account, not the term, we need the name. It's associating with the correct bank account, and we're getting multiple rows, but all this is the same. We've got 6,000 here, and we've got October 18th all the way through 2022. That's wrong. This loop did not work the way that we expected it to. So we have to go back and figure out why that happened. All right, so let's check our back in workflow here. This is okay. The current date and time. The year is the date. And this is year plus year one. That's fine. And the bank account multiplied by bank account's interest rate and add back the bank amount. No, this is wrong. It should be, I think this should be result of step one, not the bank amount. First off, that's my first problem. It should be result of step one's bank amount multiplied by bank account's interest rate, and then add that back to the result of step one. I think that's right. Let's see. And let's make sure the original amount that's going in is right also. All right, so the bank account is a number. Did I get that right on the front end? Input bank accounts value. That's correct. Result of step one's bank amount. Yeah, that should be good. I think that's the same problem with the year. Why the year is not changing is because I have year plus one. It should be result of step one is year plus one. because step one is where the data is transformed into the new amount. Otherwise, it's just passing the same information over and over again. So let's see if that works. Let's get rid of this. All right, we got a clean database, account, city, savings, today's amount, 25, 1, 2, 3. Interest rate is 5%, and the term is 10. All right, still something up here. Let's pause this. Pause task, show. What am I doing wrong here? Bank account. Am I referring to let's get rid of bank amount is the number, the year is a date, and let's pass the interest rate. Interest rate. And that is a number. Let's pass that too and see if that solves our problem. I'm not sure why I'm getting the rates are not increasing. Result of step one's interest rate. Right? We're passing these four pieces of information, the bank account, the amount, the year, and the interest rate into the back end. Oh, the year is the current date and time here. This should be the year. And the bank account, that should work. So this is probably going to take care of our issue with the year. We shouldn't be referring to the current date and time in the back end here. That should be the year that's being iteratively passed through the loop. We can refer to the interest rate here. That shouldn't change. And this should be result of step one plus year's year. And then this is transformed here. Result of step one. This still seems wrong to me. Result of step. Oh, we need the counter. We need a counter here. Yeah, we didn't do the counter. We need to count the number of iterations on this loop. So let's start with counter, and that's going to be a number. And we'll start with 1. I wanted to save that for last, but counter plus 1. All right, let's try. Let's see what this gives us. We haven't set the condition for it to stop yet, which means that we're going to keep getting a lot of records. I wanted to save that for last, but all right, so we've got loan, We've got Citi savings. Today's amount is 25,000. Interest rate is 6%. Term is 10 years. Yay. No data. All right. Result of step 1, current date and time. Result of step 1, counter is 1. We got our bank account is the bank account. Bank amount is a number. The year is a date. The interest rate is a number. The counter is a number. Let's do bank amount here. The year. That's fine. I'm missing something so silly. I know it. But this is literally like how I spend most of my time anyway, is debugging problems like this. So this is again. Why are we not getting any data now? The line graph data. What am I missing? What am I missing? What am I missing? Oh God, I didn't resume the task. Oh my God, what an asshole. All right, this gets me constantly right here. I didn't, after I canceled that, I didn't resume the task. Ugh, I'm so annoyed at myself. Oh Jesus. Cancel all. Let's cancel all. What a dick. All right, let's get rid of all these. This will kill you. This will kill you. This button right here. Now, I'm not going to put it on. It's my fault. It is 100% my fault. But could this be a different color, at least, when it's enabled? All right, let's try it again. Account name, Citi, savings. Today's amount, 25,600. Interest rate is 3%. Term is 10 years. Okay, we've got that. All right, there we go. Still got the year going on. We got to fix that. But this seems to be growing, and this is staying the same. October 25th, November 9th. Ooh, that's going in days. I must have messed up. All right, so let's go. Let's pause this. Show, cancel all. Resume task. Let's delete what we have. I think I'm increasing by day there. And then let's add the condition at the end that's going to stop this from happening. Okay, so first off, did I unpause the task? Yes, I did. All right, so now I want to say here is when the interest rate, no, not the interest rate, the term. Am I passing the term? I don't think I need to pass the term also. Can I say the bank account's term? Bank account's term is less than or greater than the counter. Only when this condition is true should this set up again. All right, so the bank account's term is greater than the counter. The term is greater than the counter. Yes, because that's when we would want it to stop. If the counter is greater than the term, we would want it to stop. I think that this is probably the hardest part right here of getting a loop to work correctly is the condition on when it should stop. That to me is always the most challenging part. All right, so let's hopefully it won't create a bunch of rogue records now. It should stop. Let's make sure that I have my pause tasks good. Oh, and then I want to fix the year thing too, right? The year is I put plus days here. I should have plus years here. Plus years 1. Savings, today's amount, 25,000. My interest rate is increased by 5%. My term is 20 years. All right, cool. You can see it's stopping now. It's not infinitely creating these records again. It's stopping 20 years out. Do I have 20 records here? I do. All right, so starting from today, October 18th, 2023, and each year. And that should be represented on our graph. Let's go to our graph here. And we are searching for line graph data. So we're going to change this. Do a search for line graph data, the amount, and current sales points year. And can we format that? I don't know if we need to. Format it as, yeah, let's format as the, let's do custom, and we just want the year. We don't need the date. Why? All right, so we've got a hockey stick there. Let's fix this because I don't think that interest rate is calculating correctly. And I think that interest rate is too high. So there's probably something wrong with this expression that I built here. This is wrong. Result of step 1 multiplied by the bank account added back to the original amount. Isn't that right, though? Let's clear this. The bank amount times the interest rate added back to the bank amount, right? I think so. That's way simpler than what I had in there. Account name, City, amount 60,000. Interest rate 2%. Term 10 years. Let's go. I think my math is just wrong here. It shouldn't be increasing like this. It's too much. It's not a 5% increase. It is doing what we want to in terms of the year, linking it back to the city account, and you can see that we have this hockey stick growth here. But if I was doing the interest, yeah, I'm not sure why that's wrong, but I think this demonstrates the way to create a loop, and definitely demonstrates the problems and debugging that come with building loops. There's always like this level. I didn't think I was going to uh, uh, get the like this part is, I kind of messed that up, but this is pretty common if you're building a workflow to a backend workflow loop, then it's going to take a little bit of finagling to get it to stop when you want it to calculate the right amounts. So this is a pretty common case of like debugging until it's correct. I think the last part here would be to just get the interest part right, but this does demonstrate the idea of putting together a recursive workflow in order to achieve this task of showing this growth here. So yeah, I think that's it. I will catch you all tomorrow. Thanks.